Once again, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining for another session of Azure Power Lunch. And just wanna let everybody know that this call is being recorded, and we will place our recordings in our YouTube channel. So if you don't wanna be recorded, um, you may wanna drop off now. So, topic of our discussion today is real-time insights and alert from streaming data using Azure Event Hub and Azure Stream Analytics. So basically, I think we have in the past session, we have talked about Event Hub and Stream Analytics. What I have come across these use cases working with a few customers, and I really want to discuss it. There are some new enhancements and new changes that make it more enterprise friendly. I'm going to talk about that, have look at a bit of a demo and see that how these technologies along with some other Azure services come together to make these real-time insights from streaming data possible. So first of all, when we just a quick recap of a few technologies. First of all, Event Hub. Event Hub are kind of think of it as a service bus for or a message queue for events. And we are talking about not hundreds of messages per second, we are talking about millions of events per second and that scale. What it allows you to do is you can have these events being sent to it that can be IoT events, that can be data from Twitters, that can be data coming from your devices, diagnostic information, things like that. All of it can be sent to these event hubs, this service where you don't have to procure any hardware, it's a PaaS service, and it can store by default for 1 day. You can increase that to 7 days, and then on the other hand, you can have listener, just like in a service bus or if in a queue you have subscriptions, you can create subscription. Here it's called consumer groups, and it can read those that data and basically read that streaming information. So you don't lose any information if let's say that you don't have your consumer groups or your device listening from it ready. So that's a big advantage that you get with event hubs. And a few, of course, it's serverless, so you don't have to worry about any VMs running anything. One other thing is it now supports Kafka interface. So if you are using Kafka and you have application that relies on Kafka, what you can do is you can basically enable Kafka interface on event hubs, and you can. It's as easy as just changing the connection string to send your events now to Event Hub instead of your Kafka devices. Okay, so this is kind of a quick overview of Event Hubs. Okay, now so that's first part is done. We have now our event stream. These constantly generated events which are coming, as I said, from variety of devices, IoT, Twitter streams, or diagnostic data. How we analyze that data. One way is to store it in a database, okay, and then do queries on it. But that doesn't give us real-time information. That takes a lot of space, and then all that insight we get, it's a bit late. So the trends that we want to see that we they may have passed. Okay, that's where Stream Analytics comes into picture. What it allows you to do is, once again, it's a PaaS service. It allows you to run queries, aggregate data, streaming data, and basically run queries. So just like you can do queries on a relational database, just like very SQL-like queries you can run on streaming data. You can set up windows. Okay, so this is my time window. I want to get data for that, and that can be different time windows. You can have sliding windows, hopping windows, tumbling windows, so different ways you can get a snapshot of time in your stream, find that data. and find any anomalies that you are interested in. So that's the second part of it. So you have one part where you're gathering these events, or kind of that's the event hub, and then Stream Analytics, you send those events, or basically use Stream Analytics to listen to those events from Event Hub, and that's where you process that information. And then this is kind of a high level diagram of how you can see this information. You can create dashboards. Of course, you can use Power BI. It's a very nice tool, and it works with Stream Analytics to create real-time dashboards. So basically, it allows you to create dashboards where your data is updated in real time. On the other hand, there are functions where you can basically invoked from Stream Analytics when a certain condition matches. And in my scenario, I have a logic app as well, and I will explain why I have it. But so without any further ado, let's look at a little bit of demo, and then we will come back to some of the enhancements that are happening on the Stream Analytics side. Okay. Any questions so far? Okey-doke. So let's go into, first of all, so this is my, first of all, yeah, let me show you this. There is my command prompt. So I have a simple generator tool. It's available. It's a kind of you can download it on the Microsoft sample site. It is generating call data. So this is my scenario. And what we are doing is we are looking for any information, any call that are fraudulent. For example, somebody is using the same SIM from two different places or something like that. So that's what we are going to find. So this is, we are generating this call data, and it's generating hundreds of events per second. I'm sending this data into this event hub. So this is my event hub, yes data. That's where I'm sending all these events. Okay, so this is as simple as that. Just keep in mind that Event Hub, for the purpose of scalability, it has partition. So the more and that spreads that data across these partition. And on the other hand, as you have multiple, you can have a consumer group that can listen to, multiple partitions. So that's how, or you have listeners which can belong to a consumer group, and then it can listen to multiple partition or one or two partitions. But just keep in mind, you cannot have two listeners on the same partition. So that's how it works. So the point is, that's the sending side of it. We are sending data using this command line tool into Event Hub. Okay, so that data is going here, and all, there are three consumer groups because I have, two or three applications that I created for demo. So all three are listening. You can have multiple consumer groups. This is a subscription, as I said, topic subscription model. Okay. So now let's go into our Stream Analytics. So first of all, let's create a Stream Analytics resource. So I'm going to go into Stream Analytics job. What you do is you create a Stream Analytics job, basically. So I'm going to use, call it SAAPL, Stream Analytics. And I'm going to use my existing, that's the one. Okay. Let me see where I have created the other one. Yeah, that's the right one. So, and I'm going to create it in East-US2. Let's do it in East-US2. Okay. And these are the streaming units. More streaming units, if you're doing heavy processing, that's what it is. And we will talk about clusters, Stream Analytics clusters as well a bit later, but that's basically it. Once you do it, it will create the Stream Analytics job, and it will take out maybe 30 seconds to create it. And then we will take a look at it, how we can set it up to listen to the connect. So it has created. So now it has two sides to it. You have input, and you have that's the data coming in, and output, that's data going out. So what we're going to do is, for the input, we are going to use Event Hub, and I'm going to call it APL input. Okay. And I'm going to use this one, data. This is, and by the way, you can use managed identity or you can use connection string. For this one, I'm just going to use connections. And that's where you can define your partition key if you are reading from a certain partition. Otherwise, it will just go through each partition and read data from that. Okay. So that's that, and it's gonna add the input. And for some reason, sometime you will get a message that input test failed. Don't pay too much attention to it, because it's kind of, sometime it gives you this error. I'm not sure why. And then, though the input is working fine. So I mean, it's maybe just kind of a occasional error. I saw that. I just want to let everybody know. Okay. And then you have the output. So this is basically the sink where you're going to be sending that information. So what we're going to do is we are going to send this information to a Power BI. Okay. And with that, what you can do is you have to authorize to Power BI. So I'm going to authorize. Okay, fun. It's going to send me this thing, and here we go. I sign in, and it's going to ask me what is the output alias. So I'm just going to say, and I'm going to use the B2B demo site to send it. Data set name is APLDS, and table name is APL. We're going to use user token, and that's it. Okay, so these are the two things that are there. What we can do now from the query is we will define a query which will send this data to there. And I'm going to cheat a little bit. I have a query, and let's talk about it, what this query is doing. As you can see, it's pretty much, if you are familiar with SQL, it is SQL query. And by the way, it is showing you the input data. This is the input data that's coming in. Okay. So what you can do is you can look at this input data and you can formulate your query. So that's what I am doing right now here. I'm creating this query. And by the way, just keep in mind your input, this from and into. From is your input and into is your output. They have to match. That's very important. So basically, I'm going to change it to output, and this is my input. Okay. Basically, this is data coming in, and let me see. Okay. And what I'm doing is I'm basically joining these two records. I'm trying to find out the number of fraudulent calls where the IMSI is the same, but the switch number is basically the countries. So nobody can go make a call from UK and China. If the time difference is only like a few minutes, so they cannot do it. So that's what it's trying to do. You cannot have both places at the same time. So that's what it's checking. Okay. And we can test the query and, it will return some results. And then what we can do is we can basically save the query, and at that point, we can start running this job. Okay. So while it takes a few minutes to run the job, I already have a dashboard that is there in Azure, in Power BI, that's doing this. So I have a data set basically. So let's, what we're gonna do is, let's go in here and let's create a new dashboard, and we're gonna call it APL dash. Okay, and in that, we're going to add a tile, and we're going to call it real-time streaming data. And by the way, I have created data set before, so I'm just going to use that. While it will take a few minutes to create that data set, since we are a little bit short on time, we're going to add a field, and we're going to call it fraudulent call. So this is going to show us what is happening at that particular moment. Okay, so let's just gonna say apply. So this is added. Now we're gonna add another tile. Once again, we're gonna do a real-time data, and this time, yes, next, and this time we are gonna add a line chart. Okay. And of course, the axis is, on the axis is the time window. And for the value, we are going to add the number of fraudulent. With that, we are going to just do add, apply, and that's pretty much it. So as you can see, in a matter of minutes, you have this data that is being generated using, without writing much code. You have taken it from the Event Hub into the Stream Analytics and from Power BI, and you are able to build this dashboard. I mean, this dashboard is still, since it's still progressing, this this is like this. Otherwise, let me show you a dashboard which I have been running for some time. So this is how the data is looking over there. So as you can see, I mean, it's showing you trends, so you can see how many calls are happening. And this can be a number of things with your organization or your customer's organization, where they want to see this real-time information. And this allows you to see all that pretty quickly, and get all that data, see it in real time. So that's one part of the real-time insight. Any questions so far?
Hey, Naveed, you mentioned, I just want to understand that the stream service can take data directly from IoT. Doesn't require necessarily Event Hub. And this
That's a good question. Absolutely, yes. So in this scenario, I'm using Event Hub. If you have an IoT Hub, yes, it can connect to. And actually, that's a very good question. Let me just show you here. If we go into the inputs, let me go to this job. Let me stop this, and we can see what other inputs we can have. Once it's stopped, we can see there are other inputs, IoT Hub, and I think a few other ones. In this one, I'm just using Event Hub. Okay. Does that answer the question? Sorry, I didn't cut you.
Yes. I just wanted to make sure that we have the option for that, and advantage, disadvantage between those. But I guess that's scenario based. Thank you.
There are no advantages or disadvantages. It depending on from where you are getting this data. Okay, if you are getting your data from Event Hub, there is no need to have. Sorry, if you are getting your data from IoT Hub, there is no need to have Event Hub. In this one, I'm simulating data generated from a source that is not native to Azure. Okay, like this is coming, telemetry is coming from some diagnostic system. You know, some this is some uh, information that is coming up like Twitter stream or something, which is not IoT Hub. So it's a non-IoT scenario. If a non-IoT scenario, then probably Event Hub is the right way to go. Otherwise, if you are getting from IoT Hub, then there is no point in going into Event Hub. Yeah, so that's the only thing. Okay. So that's that. Okay, so now let's quickly jump back to, let's say, yeah, it's good we are seeing this, but now you want to raise some alerts. You want to send some email or something like that based on these events. So that's where you can create another job. And since we are a bit short on time, I'm just going to show you how does it look like. So what I'm doing is input in this case is exactly the same. I am using the same event hub as input. Output, I am calling an Azure function. Okay, I have an Azure function that I have created, and I'm calling that particular Azure function. That's all I'm doing. And this is my function. This is my query. That's how it looks like. If you see, it's the same query. Only thing is, I'm sending any data out if fraudulent call volume is greater or equal to 40. Okay, I know this is very arbitrary. You may ask, like, what does that mean? I'm just saying this is a threshold. So in your case, in your organization or in your customer's organization case, that may be a threshold level. That may be that the temperature of the oil well, or maybe some some information, telemetry information from a machine, or maybe the tire pressure from the car. It is below 20 for maybe 10 minutes. So it means that there is something wrong. It's not an anomaly. It's not kind of just a glitch. So that's something. Now, what you're doing is when this happens, it will call that function. Okay. And let me show you the code of that function. Very simple code. I'm just using that. This is my function. I'm just showing you the code in Visual Studio here. And what it is doing is it is in turn calling a logic app to send an email. So whenever that happens, this function will call a logic app to send an email. I'm not using function to send an email. I'm just basically piggybacking, like invoking a logic app just to make it simple to do that. So that's all there is to it, and that's what's happening. I want to show you the executions of the function. So as you can see, this function is being executed as it was executed 51, 53, whenever that threshold has met, and you can raise it up and down, and you can see I am receiving these emails. And basically, this is my logic app that is sending that particular email. Okay, and this is where I am seeing this email alert showing up. Okay, any questions? Okay, let me turn this notification off. So that's that. One last item I want to talk about. I had it in slide deck here. Okay, so a number of enterprises, they want privacy, they want more security, they want traffic over. I mean, they want to communicate with these Azure services over private endpoints or connect to them privately. That's where Stream Analytics clusters comes into picture. What they allow you to do is once you create a cluster, it is a dedicated instance just for you. You can scale it up. You can go from 36 streaming units, which is basically a processing unit. That's what you pay for 216. And The way it works is you can communicate with services like Event Hub over private endpoint. So, and I have one created for that purpose. Look here. This is my cluster. And this cluster, I have one job. And the way you create a job in the cluster, you create a Stream Analytics job and then just add the existing job to the cluster. That's all that's all you have to do. And then basically that job will be running. You won't be paying for that job as long as you have attached that to that cluster. Because you're already paying for the cluster itself. Just keep in mind with cluster, even if you're not running a single job, you are paying for it. So just keep that in mind. It's a dedicated cluster for you. And the way you communicate with services like Event Hub, you create a private endpoint. So you go in, you create a private endpoint. Once you create the private endpoint here, then you are communicating with Event Hub and all those services over private endpoint. Just keep in mind, it does not support Azure Functions as of now. Okay. So even though you may have a private endpoint for Azure Function, that support is not there. So just keep that in mind. Okay, that's it's in preview. So if you or your customers need a dedicated cluster with private connectivity, that's the way to go. That's the way to move forward. Otherwise, just use Stream Analytics that is available as a multi-tenant service. So any question? We have 1 more minute. Okay, thank you very much for joining, and I hope everybody had a wonderful weekend. And see you next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch.
Thank you.